Okay, we are live. Father Miller here. Welcome back to the Nerd Father. PJ, happy to have you with us.
Thank you very
I
much.
just noticed just another Red Shirt is watching. The link is in the chat if you want to join. I know that Gary has his Friday Night Tights stream up, or the card for it. But yeah, we were talking before we went live. How are things over there right now?
It's a definite period of mourning, which means it's very subdued. Even in work today, it was very subdued. A lot of talk about what's going to happen, how things are going to change, and stuff like that. And thoughts on the King and the Queen consort.
Did you watch the King's speech?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
I've tried
it wasn't
to avoid.
Bad. I actually thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I've been trying to avoid watching the news because it's very heartbreaking, just the idea of it. And yeah, I'm a royalist. My father was, and my dad passed away last year, and I know it sounds silly, but I'm glad he did, because he would have been devastated. Yeah, I mean, I'm 57. I grew up with only the Queen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I think, what was it, about 8/10 of the UK is in the same boat?
Yeah. Yes. So 70 years as the monarch. And I saw a part of Macron's speech, and he no matter what, he nailed it. To the UK, she was our queen. To the rest of the world, she was the queen. So it doesn't matter any other monarchs around, she was known as the queen. So,
well, it's interesting to see some of the hate she's getting over here in America.
She's getting that. You get nutcases over here. There was a woman in Scotland, the Muir of Ore, the fish shop. She was out dancing with a bottle of champagne and a placard that says "Lizard Liz is dead." And accordingly, within hours, the shop's windows were all smashed in. They were all egged, and she went into police protective custody. And that's the type of thing you're getting. Scots as well. I'm Scottish. but I'm a proud Brit. And it's the same idea. You're getting Scots that are turning around saying, keep the body. If it happened in Scotland, we could have actually got our independence by holding the body. That's the type of nutcases you see coming out of the woodwork. No respect for anybody. And so...
Yeah, the reverse is also true. I was on Rambling Canuck, History with R&R, did a stream earlier on about Her Majesty, and there was a couple of chaps, of Irish guys on there, were saying apparently the Irish, Sinn Féin has come round and said, has made respectful comments, and the Irish government have said, you know, the Irish Twickers flying at half mast and this sort of thing. So it's an old thing. It seems to have gone both ways.
See, I think the same idea is the Queen was apolitical.
Yes.
Didn't matter what the government did, the Queen was apolitical, and she was seeing that across the globe. She didn't actually take sides.
As I put on Twitter, as an Irish Catholic, for me, she's the only good Queen Bess. I have very uncharitable thoughts about Queen Elizabeth I. I will not say where I hope she's at right now. But mostly because of what she did to the
getting a tan.
I don't think SPF 1 million will be enough for her, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, as an Irishman, I love the Queen.
Mm-hmm. As a Scotsman,
I mean,
I love the Queen.
I received a lot of flack on Twitter for that picture of the Union Jack that I have flying in my classroom because they brought up the persecution of the Irish by the British. And it's like, again, I'm Irish. I respect the Queen. I mean, if this was something like 200-300 years ago, that'd be different.
Yeah. See, the thing is, people are still bringing up the history as if it's happening today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in effect, what they're saying is the same idea as criminals. They're pulling down statues of people. Didn't matter what good they did, because they did one bad thing. So, in effect, they're saying, well, criminals can't be ever... what's the word?
Rehabilitated?
Sorry, a criminal can never actually pay for his crimes. That's effectively what they're saying. Because something someone did in the past, that's why they were pulling down statues. They were saying because it didn't matter what good someone did, because they did one bad thing, that's all that mattered. So in effect, they're saying criminals can never actually be... I'm trying to remember a word, something. It's just gone from my head. When a criminal is...
Rehabilitated,
that's the word. Thank you. It's obviously my head's all over the place at the moment. So they're basically saying a criminal can never be rehabilitated. These are the type of people who are turning around and saying, but criminals should be given a second chance, but only ones we agree with, because they're basically ripping down statues and they're blaming the Queen for things that happened in the British history.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And you know, the thing I told the people that were criticizing my flying the Union Jack, it's like, if it wasn't for the persecution of the Irish, my ancestors probably would never have came to America, and I would not be here today.
Yeah. But it's one of those things. It's the same as they say about there was a persecution of the Scots as well. Yeah, I mean, they actually got shifted off the land so it could actually be taken by the crown. It's fair enough. Yeah, it was what James, Colin will know better. James, was it James the First? It actually was the first.
Yeah,
it was James the First of England, but it was James the
Sixth
of Scotland. So he was the first one of Britain. But it's the same idea. You get a lot of people talking about but they're just taking the money from the taxpayers to do this and do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, and it's a case of, well, a lot of the land, she was the biggest landowner in the world. And people are going, no, it doesn't count because she didn't own the land. Well, the crown did own the land and they gave it over to the government to use. That's why they get the royal stipend and they get paid from the purse
Yeah,
because they're not getting rent from all their land. They're not sold. It's that type of thing. But people are saying, "Aye, but she never owned the land." I say, "So you don't own your house?" "I do." "Why?" "Because I paid for it." So it's the same difference. Just because in history they took the land. They took the land. Sometimes they took the land. Sometimes they bought the land. Sometimes whatever. But that's all in history. You can't actually say what happens today. The history brought us to where we are today. But
well, I mean, if we want to go down that road, it's like as a Catholic, then we should recover all the monasteries that Henry VIII took over.
yeah,
And I want Westminster Chapel back. I want that back.
Westminster. But
Westminster, thank you.
Yes, that's the type of thing. So, and I even saw someone saying, "Now she's dead, you can go to the museum and take what you want," as if it was the Queen that was responsible for all these archaeologists bringing stuff back in the past before she was the Queen, before she was born in some cases.
Yeah.
It's that type of thing. It's almost like history doesn't count because anything that happened before now is the same as what's happening now. And anytime somebody opens their mouth like that, I just ignore them. I just basically blank them out because anything else they've got to say is unimportant to me. It's because they've got no knowledge. Yes, I'm half Scottish, but I'm a quarter Irish and a quarter Italian. So by that means that my grandfather was an immigrant coming here. He was 8-year-old, so his parents brought him over. So Britain did well for that part of my family.
If she's worried over such an appallingly bad country, why so many people still want to come here?
Mm-hmm.
Same for America. If America's such a bad place, why are so many people queuing up at your southern border?
Yes.
All going one way.
As I was showing PJ before we went live, I am currently drinking Taylor's tea. Blackberry and raspberry. It's not too bad. We actually, I found out we have a British store in our town.
Oh, very good.
So, yeah, I haven't been there since, well, I haven't gone there since she died, but I'd like to go back. I mean, they had a lot of foods and stuff you could choose from.
Yeah.
So,
it's
go ahead.
Unfortunately, in Glasgow, there's an American store, but it's all sweets and all treats. So it is all the American sweets and stuff like that you can get in it. And that's basically what it's for. Juices, sweets, milks, things like that. And it's because obviously we've got a very sweet tooth.
So any idea when the funeral is going to be?
They reckon within 10 days. So 10 days time, they reckon.
I mean, you think it'll be a Saturday or?
I don't think so. They're saying if it's a weekday, it will be probably classed as a bank holiday.
It will. I think both the royal funeral and the coronation will be extraordinary bank holidays or public holidays. Bank holidays.
Public holidays, yeah. But it's the same idea. If it is a Saturday, I think a lot of that will be down to the fact is it'll to stop it being a public holiday because it will allow people whose works will not give them the time off to grieve properly and to show their respects. The weekend would be the better one for that because more people will be off anyway.
I was thinking I might have to watch it during school because we're teaching in the morning, but it hit me that if it's at 10 o'clock your time, it'll be probably 4 a.m. here.
Yes, because of the time.
So I'll be up early.
At the moment, it's 10 minutes past 8 at night here. And what, lunchtime over there?
No, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here.
So a 6-hour difference. So
there's 6 hours.
Yeah. Well, they say it's
just give you a nice little view of my outside.
Nice
so nice and sunny.
Whoa!
Oh,
yeah, I just
Too much communion wine, Father.
No. And I did not spike the tea. This is gonna be fun. Looks like my camera was unplugged. It says.
Well, I think it's also fun, especially being in the school. If it's on when either that or the coronation when it happens, comes one during your school time.
Yeah,
you can quite literally. It's not very often that you can say that you are living through a truly historic event. I mean, we've had a few lists in the last few years.
Yes,
but I don't
we've had a few things like Philip dying last April.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I was just laughing at there's just another red shirt. He's just called you a Gary. Boomer.
Well, it's more like that. My TV that I'm using as my monitor started to tip over when I was trying to show the outside of our place. But I was going to say, I mean, for us, the biggest thing that's happened in my lifetime with this would have been about 13 years ago when John Paul II died, because he was the Pope for the majority of my life. I was only 4 when he was elected, so I don't remember what it was like before John Paul II.
See, you know, I'm not a religious
man. I know.
But I remember that as well, because I remember it was the questions. Sorry, so what you're saying? So why is it white? Why is it black smoke? Why do they need to that type of thing? And my dad, even though he's not a religious man, he's a well-educated man, and he explained it all to me. So, but it's things like that. I remember that as well, when obviously after he passed. Because, even me growing up, a lot of my friends, Catholic, and it was always John Paul when I was growing up. And, I understand where that was. So, and even though I'm not a religious man, it doesn't mean I go, I'm not. No, it's out of respect because.
Well, and the thing I told my kids, I mean, one of the signs of his holiness, not the title of the holiness, but the fact that people, non-Catholics, non-believers, were calling for his sainthood now. I mean, the fact that he was recognized as a holy man.
Yeah. And it's because of the good he did.
The
same idea. The same type of things were said after he passed as the type of things they're saying now about the Queen. Because remember, there was all the controversy. Oh, he was a Nazi sympathizer. You mean he lived during the Second World War and he had to negotiate between things that happened? So that means he's a bad person because he dealt with them. Yeah, I mean, it's that type of thing. It's one of those things that people just automatically just bring out the worst part. But there is one thing I must admit. I know I'm a very strong royalist. However, I'm one of the.
Did I freeze up?
Weird ones that think the British. It should be matriarchal. To me, it should be Anne. Would be the next one. And I don't know if that's because being someone who went through a relationship that she cheated on me, well, as in, I can't get behind an adulterer in any circumstances.
The thing is, from reading and seeing the King's speech, I think I would have liked King George VI.
It's going to be confusing for about the next 6 months or so when people say the King's this and the King's that. Because you said that, and my immediate thought was, I haven't seen the King's speech yet. It was only on this afternoon.
Yeah.
Because King Charles made... I'm wondering how long it's going to be before King Charles actually sounds natural and doesn't have you thinking about the English Civil War or Charles II and the rest, the king who brought back bling, the restoration, the rest of it. How long is it going to be before King Charles actually makes sense?
Yeah.
But there was a play over here. I think it was British made, but it was King Charles or something. It's like an imaginary thing of what if when Elizabeth died.
Yeah,
and they got some of it right.
They have been doing bits and pieces like that in the past. As if she died at that point, what would happen especially under the circumstances and stuff like that.
Well,
And
this
there's been
one, it was that Charles got too political, and it was a constitutional crisis to the point where he had to.
I've said that today when I was talking about someone that says he's too political. The monarch should be apolitical. And he says that.
I mean, the interview that I saw with him, he said
he was sorry about it. He'd said it under those circumstances. However, anything environmental will have his backing no matter what, because he's already come out and said it doesn't matter if under the when he becomes he is a monarch, not when he becomes, when they'll have the backing of the monarchy. That's basically, doesn't matter if he's trying to be apolitical. People will push it, and he'll basically quite happily, because he's said in the past about it. And I think that's going to be a constitutional crisis, because he'll not be able to stop himself, because he was told when he was actually the heir to the throne not to do it, and it didn't stop him. So even though he apologized for doing it and says it wouldn't happen again, he was already told not to do it before.
He's going to have, with the best way in the world, he's going to have, I think, a great deal of problems actually sitting back and trying to be neutral because of his views.
Yes, and he's already stated his views out loud. The environmental stuff, the Great Reset views he's put out there. And that's why I think, let's put it this way, I've already said multiple times, I'm a coward. I'm quite happy to say it. But if I was standing there and something happened, I would like to have thought I would have stepped in front of the Queen. I would step out the way of Charles. I would have no compulsion to think I would step the other way, because I don't respect him because of the adultery and with these political views. But that's just me, because I'm aware of it. But it's not as if I'm going to actually change my views on the monarchy for Britain. I'm not suddenly going to call for the abolition of the monarchy. No.
There is a difference between the role and the person holding it.
Yes, correct. It's what they say is it's the same as when they're in the army. It's not the person you're saluting, it's the rank. So yeah, I can understand that aspect of it. And it's the same idea of people. Somebody actually said to me today that their kids just now are going to be in a situation unlike us. Whereas I was born and grown up to today, or to the other day, whereas the Queen was the only monarch I ever knew. Whereas kids nowadays, they're already on their second monarch, and they reckon maybe 20 years he may abdicate then to let
he's 73 now.
Yeah. So, but 20 years, so even if it's 20 years is a good run, so he's the same age as his mother, that would mean kids today will have had 3 monarchs before they're...
I don't think there's any way he reigns until he dies, unless it's a natural death.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying is, it's just that you think about it. I grew up to 57 with 1 monarch, whereas kids today could be 25 and they've had 3.
Right.
And then William's, I mean, if he does reign for 20 years, round figures, William's going to be about 60, isn't he?
Yeah, but no, William will be about 50, but it's because people are saying because of his young
William was born,
it would be easier if Charles took it on until his kids are up, so he can take over the role properly without having to worry about having kids.
Yeah,
like his mother, his grandmother did.
I wanted to play this trailer if I can get it to come up. This is the play that I was telling you about.
At last. past. My life has been a lingering for the throne. The Queen is dead. Long live the King. That's me.
The regulation of the press, we feel, is overdue. And
You do not think a principle is here at stake?
this is your role.
It's unacceptable. The Queen did not face laws like this to pass.
She always signed. She always gave assent.
Crown will lose the right to speak forevermore because you see the votes tomorrow.
Empowered by ancient decree, I do use my royal prerogative to dissolve the Parliament at once.
This whole life, I want more.
Prince Harry, no one is stopping you.
Today, I do announce that I, as Prince of Wales, will try to mediate between the King and the House of Commons.
You're looking at me, aren't you? You think you know me, for I will be a queen, unlike the ones before.
You need to know precisely where, to whom your loyalty lies. God save the King! God save the King!
Have you ever seen that one?
I haven't seen that one, and I'm glad I haven't, because just that trailer made my teeth itch.
Odd number King Charles is apparently lead to civil wars.
Yeah, I've heard that one. But
That's what I was suggesting.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not as in I've heard that one as in. I'm just saying I've heard that. Yeah, but the reason I didn't like that, I could see parts of it why they went down that route, but it's the other parts in the background. Yes, I can see Charles doing something, not dissolving Parliament, whatever, but I can see him refusing to sign something just because politically he doesn't agree with it. Hence the reason why, as they said, the Queen would sign it, because the Queen realised that although her signature was required, she wasn't the one running the country. She was the constitutional monarch, not the Queen of the country, as it were. And so, yeah, I can see him turning and going, I ain't signing that, not a chance. And that's what would cause the problems.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Good to see you, Miss Martin.
Yeah, I wanted to pop in, I guess, and say God save the King.
I was wondering if you were going to.
Yeah, well, I have a bit of a different perspective, because I'm an American, but I was in Cork in Ireland for the vast majority of my youth, and even then, people respected the Queen. You know what I mean. There were a few people that maybe weren't too expressed some things that weren't too crazy about the monarchy, especially because it was in the 80s and some of the things were going on, as we all know. But for the most part, I got to see a side of charity, maybe, if that's the right word. That and I think a little bit of what you were saying earlier is, how can you blame someone for something not only that they didn't do, that might have even happened hundreds of years ago? And I think that she lived a very good life, and everything I've seen about her seems to me that she did the best she could, that she was very brave. She was one of the last of the greatest generations.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. My mother herself didn't know that she had served during World War II, albeit in a very limited, obviously she wasn't in combat, but yeah.
Yes. She
very brave.
As a what was it?
There was a certain name for it, but basically she
ATS, I think she was.
Yeah, and was a mechanic.
Yes.
So this, I think sometimes this posh view that people have of her, this distant, cold woman, that was always manufactured.
Well, you look at what happened when Prince Philip passed. That picture went around the world where she was sitting on her own, and she did that. People are saying, "Oh no, she had to," and because of this, because of that. You look at what happened. Was it a politician in America had passed? and then you saw his funeral, and they're all sitting in rows next to each other because they all wanted to pay their respects, and be damned that everybody else was not allowed more than 10 people at a funeral, or they couldn't go up to the hospital. Yet, she made that decision because the people of her country are having to do it. No matter how hard it is for her, she showed solidarity with the people who are still doing that. Anybody else, if that was a politician, maybe the Prime Minister had passed, all the politicians would have been sitting all together. But the Queen, to me, showed that she had solidarity with the people getting told, you're not allowed to go and grieve for your husband, wife, mother, father, son. You're only allowed 10 people. You might have 30 people in your family, but only 10 of you are allowed to go and grieve. And it's that type of thing. So that picture went around the world, and that picture is, to me, is one of the most heartbreaking ones when I see it. Because when my father passed, they told us, there's only allowed 10. We just told them where to go to.
Yeah.
So
and not just that. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about it like that. I just thought it was because just like everyone else that we had to social distance. But I was also very struck by the humility of Prince Philip, because that was his orders that he not have a big fancy hearse or anything, that it was in honor of his service in solidarity with his comrades in World War II.
And people keep forgetting that Prince Philip would have been a king.
He would have been king of
Greece. Was it Greece?
It's Greece, and I think somewhere. I saw someone suggesting they shared a royal connection with Denmark as well, or something odd like that.
But he would have been the king of Greece. So he gave up a kingship to become prince.
And he didn't even become prince until 10 years into the marriage. That was something that the Queen chose to bestow upon him. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. And people got on about how he used to say this and used to say that. He was a straight talker. He would say things that people were probably thinking but didn't have the guts to say. And yes, there was a few faux pas. But you name one person that's never said something without thinking.
I can think of a few people these days in the news who do more than a few things without thinking.
And even some of them will say it even after they know it's wrong to say, because they don't care enough about the people they're saying it about. So, but I think it's a sad time, because I think the monarchy will change, and I don't think it will be for the good. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be bad. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I don't think it's going to change for the good. So any changes that happen, it will be noticeable, the differences. And that's the unfortunate side of it. That's the part that makes me sad, because she was the rock that anchored Britain.
I was watching, there's obviously been tributes all over the place. I can't remember what was on. There was a video I was watching earlier on today. There was a chap. I think it was from a few years ago now, but I think he was a close protection officer. They said certainly a close member of the household, and I think he was actually being interviewed after. It looked like he'd been invested with the award, but he was saying he was in Scotland with the Queen. They were out. He was kind of that.
Colin, you cut out. You cut off there.
Yeah, you can.
That doesn't surprise me. My internet. Yeah, this chap was saying he was with the Queen, on duty with the Queen, and she was out. I think they're having a picnic or something out in Scotland, and an American couple. An American couple came up and didn't recognise the Queen. So the same way they come from all the rest of it, they're just chatting, and the Queen wasn't saying who she was. This guard didn't either, and it goes up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the Queen said something. How long did you come up? Oh, I come up here every year. Where do you live? Oh, I live in London, but I've got a holiday home just over the hills. the holiday home in question being Balmoral Castle, of course,
Mhm.
but they didn't realise this. And she goes on like this, and have you met? How long have you been up here? Oh, every year for 50 odd years. Oh, you must have met the Queen. And so the Queen, without a grin, says, "No, I haven't, but the chap meets her regularly." This chap gets up. He puts his hand round this guard's. I mean, I presume he's in serious because he's a close protection officer. And apparently, this guy hands the Queen his camera and asks the Queen to take a photograph, which she does.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Then apparently they eventually end up taking the picture of her, the Queen, the rest of it, and they go off. And the Queen turns around and says, "I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they take the back to some American friends who know who I am."
Well, that's clever. Yeah, and that's everything I've heard about her, and not just behind the scene things, but people who are in the know, that she had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
And that
well, Prince Philip did too.
Yeah.
Well, they were humans, for crying out loud. And of course, in America, everyone now knows all about it because they've been watching The Crown. But it is the truth that she was not supposed to be the queen. And that this is something that was thrust upon them, and part of the reason it was thrust upon them was because, of course, of her uncle, who chose marriage over the monarchy. And
there are reasons why in this country no one was overly surprised. Pretend not to be overly surprised at what happened with Prince Harry when he married Meghan Markle. There is a bit of a meme about British monarchs and American women. No offense to my friends across the pond.
No,
it's just that please keep out of our royal family.
Well, I used to joke, Operation 1812 backfired.
Yes.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, hey, I don't take it.
I got to play this clip real quick. I just got to play this real quick before I forget.
I could read his lips. I'm not sure to what that was in.
I think he said something like "get out the bloody way" or something like that. He used the bloody word.
Oh, okay.
I think he used the fornication word.
No, I think he actually it was "get out the bloody way." I think he was. I don't think he swore.
I'm not sure.
I hope not, but
I think he did.
Bleep the ing in the under. Yeah, I live quite near to Windsor Castle, and I know sometimes quite a lot. Not so much in recent years, but certainly not. The Queen used to drive herself around. Way back when I was the TA in my youth, one of my colleagues, mates, a couple of them actually lived in or back onto Windsor Great Park, and one of them was actually one day Mona's on holiday. I think he was leaning on his fence, and this little old lady comes up with a headscarf on and jacket on. She says, "Good morning," and she says, "Good morning." 5 minutes later, he realizes it was the Queen.
Oh my gosh!
Literally, just come up with you walking around Windsor Great Park. She said, "Good morning" to him, and carried on.
Yeah. I saw a funny picture saying, it sounds terrible. It wasn't disrespectful like some of them are, about like, is her corgis going to be buried with her like the ancient Egyptians?
Well, I saw the Spirit Halloween one over Buckingham Palace. That's for you guys over the pond. That's basically an American Halloween store that usually pops up in businesses that have gone out of business.
I saw someone post one of the first memes that came up. Actually made me smile at the same time as I thought that's a bit of war, was the king now's first words were, what was his first thought? Thank God I won't have to listen to that bloody song anymore. Referring to God Save the Queen. Which interestingly was referred to in that video that the father showed earlier on. But at the end, it was meant in a humorous manner. Obviously, meant as a humorous manner. You could tell the way the person posted it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think the lady she had 15, I think, prime ministers.
Yeah.
And 50, I think, the same number of American presidents.
Every president since Harry Truman, but she never met LBJ.
Yep.
Oh,
But she certainly had, you know, she's been monarch during the time that she's been monarch. 15 people have been president of the United States, and at least that many people have been prime minister of the United Kingdom.
So I just gotta pop in real quick. I gotta reboot my browser because it's doing something really weird. So I'll be right back.
Okay.
No problem.
Oh no, behave yourself.
I was about ready to say, all right, guys, let's get ready.
Behave.
I was on the stream. I was watching a podcast I watch regularly every day, on the Lotus Eaters, in fact, if anyone knows it, and they were actually having the whole thing. And the problems they were having, it was buffering. They were having so many problems. I think their partner said there's a lot of people because the servers were very busy. But I think in the end, they actually ended up.
Oh, you cut again.
And he cuts out just as he's saying
it.
Okay, so my father's not here. Okay, everyone.
Listen, I saw Kelly. I saw Kelly, and she says, luckily, her not meeting Johnson. If she's talking about Boris Johnson, she obviously met him when he actually became Prime Minister, and she also met him when he resigned as Prime Minister.
But did you see the tweets that he actually put up? They were very. I mean, you could see the man's education in that. Whatever
but sorry, Kelly, I realise you're talking about LBJ. Yeah, I realised that. As soon as I opened my mouth, I realised that it's because the father had mentioned LBJ, and she says, luckily she didn't. So, sorry, I just caught that.
So, well, you know, you all across the pond, you all have a different...
We've got a different Johnson.
Different
Johnsons. The unfortunate thing is we try and keep our hands off for Johnson on stream.
Oh, wait, Father's back, didn't you know?
Yes, I did. That's why I actually
we're only supposed to be bad while he's gone. No,
we try and be sneakily bad when he's here without the shame.
Oh, I have it queued. I have it uploaded to StreamYard to just be playing when it gets clicked.
Yep.
Well. And I was also going to say a little bit of my background too is I got to go, of course, to London several times because London was just like an hour away by plane. You know, you could just hop over from Cork to London, and getting to see London Bridge and the Tower of London, and of course, every time anyone wanted to come visit us, they wanted to go over there. And as a child, one of my first introductions to the monarchy was those children in the tower. That just freaked me out so bad because that's what struck me as a little girl. It's like there were these two little boys and they never woke up. They disappeared and no one knew what was going to happen to them, you know, referring to the War of the Roses. And it was just like, so that was my introduction to the monarchy. It's like, and it sucks to be them. I mean, when you're born into something, when something's hereditary.
Yeah, but you look at the history of anything. So obviously the history of the royal family, you keep going back. Things have happened. People disappear. People have been assassinated. But you pick a country, any country in the world, and tell me things like that didn't happen anyway.
Oh no, it happened everywhere.
Yeah.
It happened here.
That's
it
what I'm
happened
saying.
here in America.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's people forget that when they talk about, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. Right, okay, pick a country, not America or Britain. Even take out Europe, but still pick a country. And then you look at the monarchy or the ruling class or the government. Things have happened in the past, but people forget that. They think it's only because superpowers only count. Because they do the same for Russia, they do the same for America, they do the same for Britain was a superpower in the past. And then you look at Spain, they'll do the same for Spain because Spain was a superpower in the past. They'll do the same for France because that was a super. And it's that type of thing. Because there were superpowers, obviously there was conquest involved.
Yeah. And they'll always look at them. Most people will always complain about these things. Not that I'm defending murdering children, but they will always look at them from a modern point of view.
Yes.
Very rarely will they put it in context.
Well,
yeah.
Precisely. What you're talking about, the nature of original sin, you can find it in a superpower or find it in a book club. Some of the most brutal things I've seen happen have been in like cosplay groups. You know, it's like there's 5 people, and suddenly the power hungry madness takes over because it's the dark side of human nature. Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about. That was just my personal experience, but it just struck me, and you know, I've been following it ever since. Well, the whole wedding of Diana, that was a big thing. That was one of my first big royal events when I was just moved over to Ireland, and just how she just stepped out of a fairy tale book.
Yeah. And that's another thing as well with Meghan Markle. I think the big problem was that she expected to be as popular as Diana.
And as somebody said, she didn't put the work in like Diana did.
Basically, Diana just... Yes, there was issues with the marriage, and there was issues after the marriage and stuff like that. Yeah, there was all the conspiracy theories about why she died, because you couldn't have the mother of a future king of England being married to a Muslim man. So but that's why you've got all these conspiracy theories around it. We don't know, and we'll never know. We could just have any theory we want until somebody actually comes out and says, this is actually what happened and I can prove it. You'll never have that. It's the same again with JFK. Unless somebody comes out and says, I've got proof to show you what happened, then nobody's going to believe it. And even with the proof, there's still going to be people that will not believe it. So
I think I've read too many books. I believe the official account.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if somebody comes out with definitive proof. There are always going to be people who will turn around and go, nope.
So I got to play this real quick.
Look, a clock. We don't have that in America.
Well, your clocks are better than our clocks.
we name our clocks. It's not just called clock. It's called Big Ben.
Yeah, and you name your houses as well. Even like a normal house would have a name.
I find that funny because, my dad's house, when we moved in, it didn't have the number on the side of the building. It had the name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dungower was the name of my dad's house.
Yeah,
Dunroming.
Great houses, yeah.
Yes, we're not all that. We do actually understand that you guys in America do have clocks. You just don't have any that are 500 years old.
That's true. Well,
the only clock we would have that's 500 years old is maybe a sundial.
Well,
no, basically, it would have actually been brought from somewhere else. It wouldn't be American made.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what we have that is 500, nearly 500 years old was when Spain was here, and the missions.
Yeah.
You know, the missions are still that's the closest we have to a capitals.
Exactly.
But
that's what I'm saying. You look at it. If you get the reparations argument, you get all these, then where do you stop?
Well, precisely.
Because if you give the reparations, do they give the reparations to the ones they took the land from? Do they give the reparations to the one they took the land? Did they go back to the point where the people they took the land of no longer exist? So how can you give it? That's the type of thing.
I'm with you on that.
My father stole from your father, so I need to give you all my money back. How is that? Just because it happened in the past, you cannot give reparations. It's the same as, like, they were talking about the war against slavery. Yet Britain was still, Colin, get me right, was it 1990 something? They were still paying.
2014.
2014, that's when they finished paying for the war against slavery. Nearly 150, 200 years they paid that.
Well, okay.
Colin's
Sorry.
our historical expert. That's why I asked.
I'm just making sure that I super glue the lecture switch onto off. Yes. And all I will say is there was a case in the taken to court a few years ago now, a couple of now obviously, where a slave jumped off a boat in Bristol Harbour. And ran away, and there was this court case about who owned him, and it went all the way up to the House of Lords, which was the highest court in that, which was our version of the Supreme Court. And the admittedly rather arrogantly phrased decision came down that the free air of England was incompatible with the status of slavery, or translated into English, we ain't having slaves in England. It's not something we do.
Yeah.
So any slave that set foot on English soil was free. I said it was a few years ago. The actual court date was 1772. 4 years before you guys decided to go and make tea in Boston Harbour, we decided, slavery ain't compatible with Englishness. So yes, exactly. As you said, the thing about reparations.
Well, I mean, Amazing Grace with what's his name, Ian McGuffin.
William Wilberforce was the.
Well, no, but they made the movie about it with the guy from the Fantastic Four.
Oh, Ewan Griffith.
Horatio Hornblower.
Yeah, I know him as Horatio Hornblower. I was going to say, and you said Fantastic Four. Yeah,
no, he was in Fantastic Four. It was
I know he was. I just think it's funny that the comic guy says Fantastic Four, and I say Horatio Hornblower.
I met the guy once. He was actually filming the Legoland when I was working there. He was quite a nice guy, Ewan Griffith.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, Friday, you were saying.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm still having some issues with my Windows.
Yeah. Well, no, and we also have a unique problem here in the United States. Let's just pretend the brilliant leadership decides to do reparations. How can you actually prove that someone is descended from slaves? Because a lot of people, when they do their ancestry, first of all, this is a dirty little secret. Sometimes slaves own, or black people own slaves, especially in Europe.
Was it AOC when her father or her great grandfather owned a plantation in the Caribbean?
Yeah, you see, so that's what I'm saying. So it's like, how can you prove it? And like, what happens if? Well, sorry, you don't get reparations because you were the evil slave owner. It just shows the absurdity of it. That. Sometimes you do have to just move on, and I'm not saying that we don't forget, because trust me, I don't forget any of the stuff that happened. But
and there's also the aspect. There's also the aspect of it as well. You look at if you get your genealogy done. How many people have got a percentage African?
Actually,
no, I don't.
It's a teeny.
No,
tiny.
but there is a large percent. It'll get something.
Although,
how far back you go?
Forgive me I have about 3% whales in me.
Oh, I have a lot more whales.
Sperm whales, blue whale. What type of whale?
Odd enough, I made exactly last weekend. The reason I wasn't able to, I know we were working on Friday, but I was actually.
Well, we didn't have it last weekend.
No, I was actually in Wales at the weekend, and I was making that joke because we were in Wales. We've done a reenactment show, and good-naturedly, because when we had the tournament with the Welsh, people were shouting about Wales. This was that, and so I'm going, I can't see the sea from here.
That's okay. I mean, playing on words.
Yes.
I was telling my kids today in class that we might reenact the Cain and Abel story in class.
Nice.
That's only if you're.
You'd be surprised how many wanted to volunteer for that.
Yeah. That's only if you're able to cane them.
Oh no, not anymore.
Dad joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, for reals, the vast majority of my DNA is, and it turned out that it went along with our oral history. It's plonked right about Northern England, Wales, and Scandinavia, like all that
Yeah.
whole area. So probably some Viking
Yeah, well,
settled
I've
in
not
and
done
shagged
mine yet,
somebody.
but
Oh,
my
sorry,
daughter
Father.
wants me to do it, and I
Mhm.
think, see, my mother's side, both of them were Scottish, and it goes all the way back. My father's side is half Irish, half Italian.
Wow.
So, from the Italian, where could it go? Because obviously, believe it or not, Rome owned slaves, and they were from all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't race
basically,
based. Yeah.
so from Italy, my bloodline could be from anywhere. But that's what I'm saying. So you look at even their percentage. Say, let's just say 25% of the people who get it have African bloodlines. So where do you go? All the white people who have got that in their DNA, do they get reparations from themselves? Because that's what I was saying. So basically, what I'm saying is, because Rome invaded Britain, and 3/4 of my family are from the British Isles. Fair enough, 2 of them are Scottish, so they would have been up in the north. Does that mean that I have to pay myself 3/4 of my salary to myself?
Golly, it makes your head hurt, doesn't it?
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying, is these things historically we can see they're bad, and that's why those who fail history are due to repeat it, because you need to learn from it. Because if you can learn from it, it doesn't happen again. So if people actually just turn around and want to divide people based on their race, then what happens when they are completely divided? So you've got this group over here, that group over there. What happens if somebody crosses over? Do they get captured and made to do what they're told because they're not from the same race? It goes down that route, and it's crazy.
Wow.
There's a film coming out sometime this year called The Female King.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's going to be very interesting to watch, because a lot of people are going to be saying, look at this, how brave and diverse it is. And quite a few people are going to be sitting back and saying, okay, right. No, I'm waiting for the bit where yes, I'm waiting for the bit where John Boyega actually tells people what it is that the British colonialists want him to do that's going to ruin his country. You know, the bit where the British tell the King of Dahomey, no, we don't like you capturing and selling slaves anymore. Please stop doing it. It's that film in particular, I think, is going to get a lot of possibly going to get a lot of feedback.
It's going to get a lot of feedback. And to me, that argument about they did it in was it the Vikings or one of the ones where you suddenly had a female king? I can't remember.
I think they did that in the sequel to, was it Vikings? Hell, I've not actually seen that one, but yeah, they
had the female king, and I'm sitting there thinking, we got brought up under the Queen, and if anybody had said that the king any king outranks the Queen, they would have been wrong. To me, it doesn't matter. Right, so you've got now going to have the king. The way I understood it, right, was the reason you had the Queen and Prince Philip is because he couldn't be king because the king's a higher title. In history, the king was a higher title. So you could have a king and his wife could be the queen. So you could have a king and queen, but he's on the throne. Whereas if she was on the throne, you can't have him as the king because that's a higher title. Whereas nowadays, that makes no difference because whoever's on the throne, doesn't matter if they're the king or the queen. The other one could be the king or the queen. They're not, nowadays we see them as the titles are just a title. They're not the person in power. So it doesn't matter if they're a king or a queen. If the person in power is a queen, then why can't her husband be a king?
I think
he's not the one in charge.
Yeah, I think it's a perception problem because I mean I noticed that Camilla is now
Queen Consort.
Queen Consort. Consort, certainly in English-British history, has only ever been the title of a man married to a woman who becomes queen. So you've got the queen. As I say, I think it is a precedence thing that in order of precedence, yes, king then queen. So obviously the queen.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is nowadays in history we all understood that.
Yeah.
But nowadays that is unimportant, because if, let's say, Princess Anne became the monarch, the queen, then whoever she was married to, I can't even remember his
I don't
name.
remember.
Yeah, she's got her second husband, whatever.
So whoever he was married to, if he became king, we would all understand as she would be the reigning monarch, and he is a partner. It doesn't matter if he was called king, and that's the thing we understand now. So the language is changing slightly. It's just the understanding is modern understanding of that language is you can still have it. However, it doesn't mean just because he's called king, he stands above the queen.
Yeah,
it just means that that's a title for the monarch, the married monarch couple, king, queen. It just depends who's on the throne.
And I think in the future that's what it's going to be, because times have changed, but we want you, at least you all, won't be having one for quite a while, anyways. So unless something terribly tragic happens.
So my head was tilted because they had on Sky News the Paddington Bear skit.
The one with the tea. The tea.
Got goosebumps again.
Yeah.
There is a picture going around Twitter where it's got Prince Philip, the Queen, and Paddington.
Yeah.
And with their backs walking away, it's time for tea.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that even though technically they've always been the consort, that they're really going out of their way to say Camilla the consort queen, not the queen, because I think that maybe goes
and the
back
thing
to...
she's called the Queen Consort rather than the Queen is because the Queen.
No, she's
because it.
No, I think the Queen had actually decreed it. That
I know she decreed it.
Consort.
Oh no, I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is that the role that she has, because she wasn't even going to be called queen, but I'm just saying that they're trying to not ruffle feathers because of the Diana thing. Because
exactly.
So I'm just saying I've never heard them go so far out of their way to say the queen, but not really the queen. Basically, what they keep saying, and I think that that's because of the ghost of Diana. I not literal, figurative, of course, is going to be around Camilla the whole time, I think.
Because no matter what happened or any stories that come out, she was loved and she will still be loved right up until the Charles passes. She'll still be over their head because people of Britain don't forget her.
No.
And that's the thing. I can still remember what I was doing the day of her funeral.
Oh gosh, yeah. It was the whole week.
Believe it or not, I didn't watch it. I passed right past. I was in Glasgow, so there was in George Square. There was a book you could sign, which my current wife actually went in. She was telling us she was in there and signing it, but I drove past it in the bus when I was going to play. Actually, in a car. I was in a car because I had my computer with me, and I was going to play computer games with my friend because we got the day off. So I remember the day just for the simple fact is I still remember what I was doing on that day because even though I wasn't there and I wasn't watching it, it was important enough to remember the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's that type of thing. It's the same as like JFK. Everybody remembers where they were when JFK was assassinated.
I don't, but I was only 3 years old at the time.
I was just a twinkle in my daddy's eye. I remember that. I was born 2 years later, but in effect, it's the same idea. When someone important passes or of the funeral of that person, people remember where they were because it's so important.
I mean, as I say, I mean, obviously don't recall, but I do remember exactly where I was when I first saw TV with the planes hitting the Twin Towers.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh God, I was at work, and after somebody said to me, "Did you hear the plane flew into the Twin Tower?" And I was waiting for the second line of the joke, and they said, "No, seriously." So because I was working in IT, I made sure we had enough bandwidth that everybody was watching it on their computers.
Oh my!
And the work just sat there.
I remember how slow it was that day.
Basically, our whole work was sat there watching it live, and nobody went home. They all sat in front of their computers, glued to the screen, watching what was happening. I still remember the office I was sitting in and everything, even though the company's no longer there, the office is no longer there, that building's been renovated. I can remember exactly where I was, because it was such an important event, such a tragically important event, unfortunately. But it's tragedy. You always remember the tragedy. Very little you remember the good times the same way, because you're either too happy to actually think about what's happening around you. So,
I just saw Archer's comment about Rings Apart. We haven't even talked about that yet. I haven't watched
I've
it
been
yet.
watching some of the reviews. I've not watched it, thankfully.
No, I'm not watching it. Yeah, I don't need.
After Wheel of Time, I ain't touching any of that stuff.
Which reminds me, 3 episodes still to go, Paige.
We were watching Rings of Power and we never finished it because it was the Wheel of Time. We were watching it and it was that bad. We stopped 3 episodes from the end. It was dire. And this to me is, oh, you think that was dire? Hold my cape.
Well,
yeah, it's just the idea of some of the things. But do you know what puts me off these programs before I even start? As soon as somebody turns around and says, they don't turn around and say, right, we've got this story we want to tell. It's about this group of people and they're going to be coming in here and doing this. And that's the story. They want to go, well, we've got these people of colour and these people are gay and these people. They tell you about the people who are acting in it. We don't care about the people acting. We care about the story. And as soon as they start telling me about the things that are not the story, I just say, well, there's another one I'm not going to watch.
Yeah. I think at this point that's actually a clue, because shows that are actually good don't do that. So if suddenly if you hear people going, oh my gosh, this, and okay, this show is garbage, and they're trying to get ahead of it. Steve off any criticism is trying to call you racist, sexist, homophobic, and every other ist.
Yeah. I've got to the point where almost anything you see a trailer of, I go through and say, okay, so that's what they're, so that's the meat shield they're going to hide behind for racism. That's the one that they're going to use for. Okay, so let me see. Is that a gay character? That's going to be the homophobia shield if you don't like the show.
See, the thing is, I don't really watch a lot of the trailers, and there's one trailer I refuse to watch. The trailer to Winnie the Pooh's horror movie.
Oh, I saw that.
There's a few on the stream in the Saturday.
Not good.
It was brought up, and somebody says, "Put it on." And this is after we closed down the stream. There was 5 of us on the stream. 2 were wanting to see it. 1 was morbidly curious about the trailer, but would never watch the movie. And 2 of us said, "Nope, ain't watching it, because I'm not watching a kid's character be decimated just because." So I refused to watch it. And the thing is, I was talking to a lady in work. She's got a Winnie the Pooh mug. She loves Winnie the Pooh. And I said to her, "Did you hear about that?" And the first thing she did was she got the cup and she basically covered the cup as if I'd said something that would make it cry. And I thought, that just goes to show, even there's a mug, a Winnie the Pooh mug, and you mention something bad, and she covers the mug to protect it. And that's, to me, that is how powerful. That'd be like having Paddington in a horror movie. I wouldn't want to watch that either. It'd be like having, there's just too many kids shows that made into stuff for adults. No. That's to me someone who deliberately doing it because
but
they
not
know
just that,
kids
you know,
will
and to
be.
go back to the Rings of Power stuff, and I think it was Kelly, if you don't mind, Father, I want to address it. I'm not a Tolkien fan, so I won't be watching any of it. Well, I am a Tolkien fan, so I won't be watching any of it. For one thing, because it's not based on Tolkien's story. Tolkien actually wrote the story, and they didn't get the rights to it. I mean,
and they're not even allowed to mention certain much. That's why Neurotic calls them the Harfoots, the Hobbits. They just keep on referring to them as Hobbits because they don't like it because they're not allowed to use Hobbit.
And it's just
Hobo
like
Baggins.
And that's why everything's so new. But I thought it was very sneaky of them how they kept covering for it. Like even while this whole show was in development, they were leading us to believe that they were developing the story that Tolkien wrote. And then when the trailer came out and I was on with Lady Gravemaster, we were like, I don't recognize any of this stuff. And then they started going, well, we don't quite have the rights to this and this. And then it finally came out, we don't have the rights to barely any of it. They're making it up.
They're just allowed to supplement. They're doing the same with this that they did with The Wheel of Time. They took these books, right? And instead of having one book and taking out the slow parts and building a story around all the really good parts, they decided we'll take that part out, that part out, that part out. Right, now we've not got enough. We'll need to add stuff in. So they added their own stuff in. They've got books and books of material, and they take that much of it out. It makes the story unrecognizable. Then they add new stuff in, which means they're adding new characters, adding new locations, adding new story elements. And you're sitting there thinking, why did you buy that if you want to change it?
Yeah.
It's the same idea with these. They brought the appendix. So in effect, they have to make the story up. They're adding characters in. Considering the amount of characters Tolkien had, they're adding new ones in to tell a story.
They don't have the rights to it. They
exactly. They don't. But they've got the rights to the appendix. So anything that's in that, they can. So the characters in there they can use, but they decided not to. And created new characters, and that's the point.
Well, they have to almost by very nature
to get all these characters they can use, and then get rid of them and put new characters in.
And despite what the press would have you believe, because most of the complaints seem to be based on the storytelling. I mean, I've been watching Az and Disparu. It's absolutely. I love it. Az has got a great way of pointing out characters. Like one of them is his name for the black actor, black elf.
Don Lemelas.
Yeah. No. I think I was the first one to say Don Lemon Elf. Az calls him guess who's coming to second breakfast elf.
Oh yes.
Yeah. You know, obviously
I don't understand that reference.
It's an early.
It's a Sidney Poitier movie from the 60s.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
I know when you guess who's coming to breakfast.
Yeah.
Galadriel.
Yeah.
I didn't even. It just didn't click.
No.
I've seen most of Sidney Poitier stuff, and they're absolutely superb. Why the hell I forgot about that one? Maybe it's just as soon as I see that stuff, anything that comes in just sounds like junk. I didn't put it together with Sidney Poitier movies.
Yeah. And I think it was Disparu was saying and pointed out that all of the elves have got short hair, so they can show the ears because that's the only way you can tell they're elves if you look at the ears.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing else to differentiate from humans.
And even the fact is, these are the progressive ones. And what did they do? They put a derogatory slang for them, knife ears. I wondered why they did that. These people who are trying to be inclusive started having people who were slagging each other and using derogatory language. Can't imagine anybody else writing that type of thing and even thinking about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I understand maybe things like users are just you're so up yourself that you think you're better. Well, actually, we are, but that's a different story. But calling them knife ears as if that.
Well, that
They
was
just
actually
want that to
ripped off.
catch on. They want that to catch on so they can start referring to Jackson stuff. Or did you see the knife ears and that? So they want that to catch on. So it's a derogatory term they can use to talk about Tolkien's elves.
Yeah, but that was actually a term that was used. A lot of people said that they've actually ripped that off. That knife ears was something that was used in a video game. I forget the name of it, but
Yeah, I
everyone
heard that one. I heard that. But it was the fact is they put that in to me, which they do everything deliberately, and it's deliberately so it catches on. So they can start referring to Tolkien's elves as knife ears, so they can start being derogatory towards them.
Well, they hope that they can, but the problem is
Oh, they
people
hope
have
they
to
can. They
actually
would have
watch
to have
it.
people
People have to
watching it.
actually watch the show, and I think it's very telling because let's just say there are real racist trolls, and I still haven't seen it. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't, but it's just amazing how the racist trolls always come out only when the show is bad, but it doesn't come out with a show that's good. For example, like House of the Dragon. The fact is that we have a very limited scope, among people that maybe perhaps we know that YouTube. Normies are not catching on to this. Normies should be catching on to this.
I can tell you, you're right. My brother-in-law asked me. He says, "Did you watch the Wheel of Time?" I says, "I'm a big Wheel of Time fan. Yes, I watched it." He says, "Greatest thing since Game of Thrones." Well, and I just went,
yeah, but like the numbers would be there if it was as big.
Yeah, but they're getting the few numbers, and the ones that are watching it, they're not catching anything. And that's, as you said, the normies, it's just a case of when they are watching it, they're going, "This is boring," but they're not picking up just because it's Tolkien. They're just going,
"Oh, I know.
Oh, Tolkien. Nah, never bother. It's rubbish."
Yeah,
and that's the problem. So. Yeah.
But if something were good, it would catch on regardless. That's my point.
Yes,
the fact that.
See, I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, but I can understand why people liked it.
Well, the fact that it's doing 4 times, the ratings have come out, it's doing 4 times better than that. I mean, The Rings of Power should be actually, it considering how big the Lord of the Rings trilogy was, and even The Hobbit, by relatively speaking, even though I think it's far inferior movie. I'm just saying, even normies, so they're not getting even those numbers. So so it's not working. It's not racist trolls.
The worst part of it is
to happen.
People have been calling it the Rings of Power and all that. Every time I see clips of it and the way the people are talking about it, to me, it's almost like the Rings of Powder. So it's a kind of it's almost like they're all going on about how super duper it is. Isn't it fantastic? Put a bit of makeup on, and it's those type of people that are actually doing it. It's all these arty-farty actor types. They're the ones that are telling us all how fantastic it is. We just don't see it because we're not intelligent enough to understand it.
I call it the Rings of Diversity. Something like that.
But
it's got to be something like that.
Even so, it's still if it was good, nobody would care. No one would even be talking about the quote unquote diversity, even though that's all the actors want to talk about.
Well, I mean, after all, there's never been a black led movie, so things like Beverly Hills Cop, they didn't count. I mean, Blade, that didn't count. You know what I mean? And you're sitting there thinking, did these guys actually ever watch? Eddie Murphy, one of the highest paid actors in the 80s, and they're saying how everybody was that bad, they hated all black people, and you're sitting there thinking, anybody watch these movies? They were popular for a reason. They were popular not because the guy's white. The guy's obviously not white, but it was an entertaining movie by people, and starring someone that people liked. Because no matter how good that movie was, if everybody was racist, it wouldn't have made a fraction of what it did.
Well, oh, sorry.
Yes.
So I was say what I find quite funny as well is the pushback and the way the pushback from the defense from the mainstream media seems to be getting pushed back. I remember there was a bit where the lady that plays the Elven Princess comes out and she says, at one point, she's the first black elf on ever. Well, the first female.
The dwarf. It was the dwarf.
Sorry, dwarf. Yeah, the first female
dwarf.
dwarf. Till they point out, well, there were female dwarfs in Jackson. More to the point, there were female dwarfs in Willow.
Witcher.
Willow,
Witcher had some too, and Willow.
Yeah.
And
Willow had. Then it becomes the first female dwarfs in. The first female dwarfs on screen. Then we got the first female dwarfs in Tolkien. Someone points out dwarfs in the Hobbit trilogy and the Headbeard. Then it becomes the first black female. Oh, make your mind up. My favourite though was,
and the thing is, everybody was going on about how everybody was racist towards her. Yeah, most people actually said she was on for a couple of minutes and she was definitely not that bad.
Yeah.
And so her going on, it was her going on about how diversity did this, and that, and you need to watch it, and people are going to be racist because she's a black. No, because most people, the ones are slagging, is glad that it. It's because I do it. Is because I keep thinking Gary's
Guy
lad.
Yeah.
But it's that type of thing. It's a case of people were slagging the right characters because they were boring, they were overpowered, and they were just dull. Anybody who'd seen it says that woman was hardly in it, and the part she was in was a good part. The only reason it's highlighted is because she highlighted it.
Logic and reason has nothing to do with it.
No. What I thought was quite funny was sorry, this one got a father there. Okay, that's fine. No, I'm type and talk at the same time. I can't multitask. I'm a bloke. No, how's that for sex? I'm not sure that's sex on. No, I was saying was really made me laugh. If I think about it, I can actually semi-understand. Was Whoopi Braindead comes out and starts going on about. Was first of all, she says these things aren't real; they're fake. To which Mike says, "Well, then why do you care?" But she's going about it, and one of her co-hosts. She quoted was J.K. Tolkien.
Yes, that was the one. That's an argument because they turn around and say it's unimportant. The race is unimportant. Why do you care? And saying, well, why did you change it if it's unimportant?
So if I broke up a bit,
They're the one to change it and then tell you it's unimportant. So if that's the case, then why did you change it?
Yeah, the other thing there was
100 years talking about it too, like nobody. Dot.
Yeah, it's the same idea. Right? I'm not a big Battlestar Galactica fan. I like the classic one. However, the Apollo character, the Starbuck character, because of the situation it was in, so it wasn't about certain things. So they needed a pilot, called it Starbuck, and it just so happened it was a female, and she didn't act like an ultra powerful female. She didn't act like she acted just like Starbuck, and it didn't matter if it was male or female. It was Starbuck because of the attitude behind it. And to me, that's all it needs. So if you're going to change something because the character doesn't matter if it's male or female, then just make it the character rather than try and change the aspect of the character that makes it irrelevant.
So,
but they want to change the character so it actually looks bad.
I do have to start wrapping up.
I need to get ready because I've got another stream in an hour.
Okay, so
Judge Dredd stream with Mr. Brown's Alliance.
Anybody got anything to plug?
Tuesday.
Well, you just did, I guess.
You're coming first.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want some fun, Let's Talk Geeky tomorrow night, and I'm not going to be on it. It's going to be run by Jim the Viking.
Mm-hmm.
First time, let's see how that goes. Crash and burn.
Tuesday evening on FFSI, we're going to be doing a discussion of the pilot episode of a little-known show called Space 1999.
Breakaway.
Breakaway. We're going to be talking about that.
Yep.
Um,
And then
Miss
we're
Martin,
going to be
anything?
discussing on Wednesday, we're going to be discussing Space Above and Beyond.
we're on to that, are we? Excellent.
Well, tomorrow I have Father My Book Club at 11 a.m. We're continuing with the Sword of Shannara. So if you want to catch up or maybe listen on the rerun, if you want to read some good fantasy, that's what I'm trying to promote on my channel.
Got a lot going on this weekend.
Oh no, I understand. I'm just saying for everybody. And
Miss Martin, could you do us a favor? Put a link to your channel in the private chat at least, so I can get a link to it.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have a wrench. Okay. Well, for sure. It's the same thing. It's Miss Martin Music.
I don't even know how to set up a wrench.
Oh, it's easy. You just
you just go in. Yeah, you just go into your StreamYards, and then when you've got you've got the option where your settings, you can actually add a moderator in there.
Yeah, or sometimes I even just take out my phone and do it. It's even easier that way.
Yeah, I think you can actually.
Well, I'll have to do it next time.
You can actually click on the bit in StreamYards, you 3 dots, and you get to add it as a moderator.
I don't see 3 dots. Oh wait, I think I see it.
Nobody. Yeah. Yay! And then also keep your eyeballs open. I'm finishing up my watch of Cobra Kai season 5, so I'm going to be doing a spoiler review live stream sometime.
Okay. Well, it only gives me the options: edit name, edit mic setting, kick from studio, ban from studio.
It must be another one. It's in. It might actually be in the chat.
Okay. Well, I do have to get running, so but I'm gonna try to stream Sunday night. Miss Marta, if you're interested, I think Justin's gonna come on to defend Rings of Power.
Oh, for crying out loud!
So if you want to have fun,
so it's funny. Coming on with a plastic sword and shield.
No, I'm in the mood. I want to stay on the wagon. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Remind me to bring my elven arrows.
But is that wagon got cover so it doesn't make a sound?
So I thank everybody for joining and for everybody watching. We'll do it again next week.
And thank you for your comments.
We'll see everybody.